Hey everyone, this video I'm going to show you how to hike the trail along Upper Hot Spring Canyon here in Cleveland National Forest. Now obviously there's a waterfall behind me. I'm going to show you how to hike to this waterfall, and then for the adventurous I'll show you how to get to another waterfall which is fairly treacherous. You don't see this hike on the website for the forest because it is very challenging, especially once you get past this point. But to get to this point, it's a nice family-friendly hike, short, under 3 miles. I'll put all the details and the specs for the hike on HikingGuy.com, so check that out. But otherwise, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do the hike. And it's a little bit wet today. It's like 36 degrees Fahrenheit. And I've already busted my knee and fallen a bunch of times. So just beware if you do this. It's much different when it's dry. You can kind of just cruise down here. And when it's wet, when the water is good, it's a little treacherous. A lot of wet grass, wet granite, wet leaves, wet. You get the idea. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, as always, if you could do me a favor, just click a little thumbs up. It's an easy way to say thank you, and it helps me out a ton too. So thank you for that. And anyway, let's hit the trail so I can show you what this adventure is all about.
All right, so we're going to start at this little parking area just outside of the Falcon Group Campground. And there's a trail over there on the right-hand side, and there's one on the left-hand side. We're going to take the one on the left-hand side, and we're just going to go through these little trees here. We're going to come out onto a meadow and then hike across the meadow. And you can see the trail here is very easy to follow. What's tough on this part as we go across the meadow is that there's a bunch of little access trails from the Blue Jay campground, the Falcon campground, and who knows where else. And it can be kind of tough. So at this first junction at the end of the meadow, we're going to make the left and keep hiking straight through here. And there's always going to be a trail here. It's never sort of bushwhacking at this point. At this junction, we're going to stay left. You can see there's another trail off to the right. And you'll also see some trails coming in from back to the left as well from the Blue Jay and Falcon campgrounds, which are off to the left over here. One more tricky intersection. We're going to stay left and go straight here. And after a little bit past that intersection, we're going to kind of come alongside of the banks of the stream, which is right here. Now, if it's dry out, there's probably not going to be water flowing here. It generally flows year-round, but I've definitely seen it when it is dry here. But you'll see water at some point, even this summer. Now, as we go, we're going to cross over the stream a few times. I'm just going to show you what the trail is like. This is not a trail where it's like make a left at this junction, make a right at this junction. You're really just following the trail downstream, and the trail will change periodically. Here you can see there's a tire that got washed down at some point, but there's some of these little stream crossings over here. You can see the trail goes up here. This is a pretty common maneuver. Sometimes if there's obstructions, you just look up for the trail and look on either side as well. If you do climb up, you will eventually come back down. Here you can see that little detour I took is bringing me back down towards the creek. But again, it changes a little bit, I think, every time I come here, and it's a little bit of a choose your own adventure, but there's always a trail. You can always look for the footprints, and you will always be coming back down to the creek, which you can see here. And you can see here we're right down along the creek. Now there's some little scrambles. I think scramble might be a strong word for that, but you can see here we're just stepping up these rocks. When it's wet, it's a little more treacherous. When it's dry, it's not much of anything. But you can see it's not too bad, and the trail is definitely easy to follow. There's also sections where we're going to go through the creek. And again, when this is dry, you're just walking down the middle of these rocks. But when it's wet, you're going to pick yourself through. Just step carefully and purposefully as you go. But again, if you look ahead, you can see the trail following the creek down there, and very easy to follow. If you're not seeing a trail like that, you're probably not in the right place. Here's an example of a smaller used trail off to the right. That's not the trail we're going to take. And if you end up climbing up out of the canyon here, then you are not in the right place. And once you get to this little area, which is a little bit away from the creek, you're almost at the first fall. And the first fall is about 15 feet. And here we are at the top. To go around and see it, you're just going to go around to the right here. And there's a lot of little trails that will bring you down to the bottom of the falls. It's a great place to just sit on a rock and have a bite and take a break. And if you're just doing this part of the hike, you're just going to turn around from here. The trail definitely gets more challenging from here on out. I'll show you what it looks like. And again, it's going to be more of a what to expect rather than a make a right, make a left type experience. And you can see right away as we continue down, we're going to cross this little tributary here. And there is a trail, you can see it there, but it's definitely much rougher than it was before, where you could definitely see the footprints involved. And you're going to have to do some rock hopping. Now when this is dry, you're just going to cruise down the dry trail. There'll be little pools usually when it's really warm out, but it's nothing like doing it now when it's wet. But of course, when it's wet, it's more spectacular as you go down here. There are sections where we're going to climb up above, and you can see there's some little mini falls as we go down here. And it's not all crazy. You can see here the trail is reasonable. Definitely a lot easier to hike than it is when it's in there. Also, you'll notice the canyon walls are getting closer in, and you can see the stream cuts through the canyon straight ahead. We're going to go back down to the creek at this point. And there are also points along the stretch where you will cross over to the other side and back, probably, I don't know, a dozen times maybe. When you come to this wall right here, we're going to go upstream a little bit and cross over. This area can be potentially very slick here, so just a heads up as you navigate through here. Even when it's dry, these rocks are pretty smooth and slick. Here you can see some tags, a little waterfall. I can't believe people tag here, but what are you going to do? But you can see we're climbing down. We're still on the left-hand side after we crossed over. And it's definitely more rugged as we go through there. You can't really see much of a trail. This is very typical, especially when it's wet here. There's a little bit of a trail. You go down, it sort of disappears. You're going to look to the other side, and there you can just see some trampled grass going down. That's what we're going to follow as we go through here. I wouldn't attempt to keep your feet dry here either. You're just going to get wet if it's raining out, so it's just how it is. And when we come here, this is the end of the trail, and the 25-foot fall is straight ahead. And when it's dry, you can kind of hop down there, but if not, what you can do is you can go up on this little ridge here and get a nice view down to the fall. This is where the trail ends. Past this, it's basically a canyoneering exercise, and I'll talk all about that on the guide on Hiking Guy. But if you do climb up, just be careful. It's super sketchy. In retrospect, I should not have gone up here, but you can see the trail going up along the side. If I fell here, good chance I could have died, at least broke a leg or something. But here we are at the end. I'm up on top, and you can look down and see the falls from the top. Now, when it is dry, it is much easier to go up and around. But again, I don't recommend it. Just enjoy it from here. Be safe and enjoy the views. Here we are hiking back up. And that's the hike. Definitely will be a challenge if you're not used to this type of thing. All right, so here's the hike on a 3D map. It's pretty straightforward out and back hike. And we're going to start over here. Once you get off the 74, you're going to go up past Blue Jay Campground, which is pretty massive. And if you have to use a bathroom, this is a good place to do it. And then we're going to come up to the Falcon Group Campground, which is right over here. And here's the little parking area on the side of the road. Now, once we start, I mentioned there's a bunch of little trails that crisscross. They're all in this area here, and they'll join in. You can see some of them on the map here. But essentially, we're going to go down until we join the stream, which is right over here. And we could see that we're in, this is called Upper Hot Spring Canyon. We're in the canyon along the stream the whole way. So you're never going up or out of the canyon. You're always just heading down through the canyon. It's pretty easy. If you do see a small trail going up, this was that first one where I showed you the use trail going up. I have not explored that yet, but that is not the way, obviously. Here we are at the first waterfall. This is where we crossed that tributary coming in. That was pretty rough. And from here on out, if we go in, maybe we could see the elevations a little bit better. It's definitely a narrower canyon as we go. And we go around to the second waterfall, which is a 25-foot drop. Now, in the guide, I'll talk about this more, but the section from here, from the second waterfall, all the way down through here is considered one of the most rugged areas around. This is a canyoneering exercise, basically, to come down here. And it's also home to the tallest waterfall in the Santa Anas, which is 160 feet. and I'll talk about that in the guide, but this is not a place where you want to walk down here. One of the canyoneering guides that I read recommended that you take 10 to 14 hours to cover the 7 miles of this stretch here. So it's really rugged. It will involve rappelling down waterfalls and some hardcore technical skills that are beyond the scope of your average hiker. And again, I mentioned it in the very beginning, but the stretch between the second waterfall and the first waterfall is challenging. It's definitely doable, but it is challenging. If you don't feel comfortable on this stretch, just turn around and come back. The part to the first waterfall is pretty straightforward. I've seen little kids on this trail. You know, it's not a cruisy trail like, you know, Mount Wilson Trail where you can just cruise along at 3 miles an hour. You will definitely have to pick your way through a little bit, and there's poison oak and there's ticks and there's things like that. But it's not a, you know, it's not a treacherous hike. From here, you could definitely fall and get hurt. From here, don't do it unless you know what you're doing. And if you're watching this video to do the waterfall hike, you don't want to go down here. This is not a good time. I do have some really cool, a video of some cool drone shots on the website, and I embedded that on the guide, so you could check that out if you want to see what it looks like. It is beautiful, and it is cool. Anyway, guys, enjoy the hike, and I will see you out there.